Nico Schoof, who is the replacement of Mr. Aaron Archambault on the ground as far as to be dealing with the recovery. We touch base on the recovery procedure, the recovery progress, and just had a open discussion as how we would move forward. I also met with Mr. Hans Vroeg and Chris Heijzen, the commanders of the Koninklijke Marechaussee. That was also like a pre-meeting discussing of the approach that would be taken in the execution of the regulation that was signed on border control. What will happen is that a work conference would be planned. We were looking and hoping that this could have been taken place sometime next week, but it doesn't look like that logistically would be possible. So it is more in the planning to do that sometime in the beginning of January. And that conference would be where on the departmental levels, like police, customs, etc., from both the Netherlands and St. Martin would be getting together to work out the details, the plan of approach, as is mentioned in Article 4 of the regulation. I read today in the newspaper that the regulation was not sent on to Parliament yet, the signed copy of the regulation. That is a miss from my side. I would make sure that both the press and Parliament get a version of the signed copy of the regulation. But we are in the stage now, as I mentioned, discussing how we would proceed in working out, making a plan of action to do the execution of that regulation. In the Council of Ministers meeting yesterday, the legislation on the integrity chamber was discussed and approved. As you know, it came back from the Council of Advice, and a response to the advice of the Council of Advice had to be prepared by the government and approved by the Council of Ministers. That was done yesterday, and as I speak now, that document has been sent to the office of His Excellency the Governor to be forwarded to Parliament. So as far as the government is concerned, the issue with the legislation on the integrity chamber has been finalized and would now be in the hands of Parliament to deal with. There has also been some comments about that that it has taken long. I would like to remind everyone that there are procedures when dealing with legislation, procedures that are regulated by law. The different bodies that have to deal with the legislation, the process that has to take place, and we made sure that we follow those processes, because if we don't, and someone would appeal or protest the manner in which it went, then it may result in us having to start from scratch. So, like I said, now that document has been sent on to Parliament via His Excellency the Governor, and we as government consider that our part has been done as far as the two conditions set by The Hague regarding the recovery fund. We are not going to wait until Parliament has approved that document. We can continue in the planning, and we have had discussions about how can we First of all, the issue, how is this fund going to be managed? How would projects be able to be submitted? What projects, et cetera, et cetera. What we have done in the Council of Ministers meeting is to have decided that we would try to centralize as much as possible the whole process for us. So now the Office of the Prime Minister, of the Minister of General Affairs, would function as a coordinating office dealing with these projects. Now, this setup, and I mentioned this in the last press briefing, it is absolutely not the case that as soon as a document is signed that a bucket of money is going to be poured into St. Martin and into projects. It's a process that has to take place. The setup that is being looked at by the Netherlands is to have the World Bank coordinate the whole issue with the projects, etc. Now, how that is going to go has not been determined yet. So the argumentations that were made that there's a key back by the government, that is absolutely not the case. As a matter of fact, in the coming week, next week, around the 14th and 15th, it is in the planning that the Director General of the Recovery, Mr. Hans Leitens, would be on the island, and also representatives of the World Bank would be here. A work conference is being planned with them, with senior civil servants, the SGs, and to discuss that whole process. It is expected also that they would meet with the Council of Ministers to elucidate and discuss exactly how that process is going to take place with the involvement of the World Bank. So even that part of the recovery has not been finalized and has not been determined yet. There were no agreements signed already between The Hague and the World Bank, nor with St. Martin and the World Bank. That process is taking place. However, all parties realize that the situation that, especially with the homes and that some folks are living in, cannot wait until we have that whole big project totally organized. So we are looking at seeing how certain projects that are easily implemented and managed, how these projects can start taking place. Those projects, we refer to them as the low-hanging fruit project.
Hey guys, did you know that now with Telcel, if you accumulate $25 or more within one calendar month, you get 15 more?
15 more?
Yes, 15 more, however you want.
So I can top up $3 now, $10 next week, and so on until I reach or pass $25?
That's right, get 15 more.
Wow! I feel like a 15 again.
Yeah, right. Accumulate $25 or more within one calendar month and get 15 more. Telcel, when you want more.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NV.
The Department of Education would also like to make known, as you may have seen via other press releases that the pavilions, 2 of the 3 then, which had been received by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, which had been transported via the Karel Doorman from the Ministry of Education, Culture and Science in the Netherlands, one was officially handed over to the Charlotte Brookson Academy and the other to the Mac CSE in the Ebenezer on Friday, December 1st. Some delay, and I have been coming weekly and updating on this, but apparently that maybe isn't clear to all. Some delay has been noted in getting these pavilions to be usable here. The first delay, of course, the preparatory works that had been needed prior to erecting them, which was executed by VROMI with the assistance of Windward Roads. Thereafter, of course, electrical lines, water lines, and sewage lines had to be laid. A further challenge which became very apparent upon the erection was that the air conditioning units that had been sent, very large air conditioning units, were incompatible with our electrical supply here on St. Martin, and they were returned when the ship went back the last time. We did then go into deliberations with Oceanway in the Netherlands, and they did agree to finance the purchase of the AC units that were done here. Some challenges, these were installed and replaced, and so the electrical systems were finalized. However, we're noticing, of course, in practice that they are still being challenged by trips within the electricity, and so some tweaking is still needed by electrical engineers and GEBE to ensure that the load can be carried once the classrooms are in full operation. For the Charlotte Brookson Academy, there are 6 classrooms and 2 offices. It was adjusted to meet the needs of the school, which had no location. The other pavilions are simply divided into 6 classrooms and are located close to the other schools so that the students can make use of the other facilities at their schools. Yes, so we did incur some challenges in getting it set up. We appreciate the gift of the Netherlands, but it required quite some work to actually make it operational. We are totally grateful. The schools are totally grateful, and we will continue to monitor the usage of these pavilions to ensure that they're being optimally used. So the keys to the front and back doors were handed over, as well as the classrooms and restrooms at CBA, and for the classrooms and the front and back doors at MAC CSE. We are also moving forward with the continued preparation for the third one that was placed on the current property of the Prince William Alexander School in St. Peter's, which is close to the St. Martin Academy. There was some discussions back and forth with the board, which have now been clarified, and so that pavilion and its preparation will also continue so that the students of the St. Martin Academy can also make use of that. As I mentioned also, we'd received a 4th pavilion, not necessarily called that, but a tent structure from the United States, and at the time it came, it was really like an unknown donor. So some research had to be done in terms of being able to ascertain and get the necessary information to be able to erect such. The discussions also ensued on whether the company that donated it would send the technical assistance, because in the meantime, the technical assistance from the Netherlands, which had erected the 3 from the Netherlands, had already left, as there were no proper manuals and instructions for doing so with the tent structure. So that one had been intended for the St. Martin Vocational Training School. As a matter of fact, since their 4 classrooms have had so many delays, and with the new registration, them having more students again, they're also having some issues with restrooms. And so we are aiming to send the restroom that we did not use for the MAC CSE pavilion up there, as well as to finalize the construction of the 4th tent. That one, though, did not come with any interior flooring, etc., and partitioning. So that would then, of course, be another project in and of itself to get it operational. However, we continue as Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports to try to meet the needs in these trying times, to be able to continue to provide education to the up to 80-90% of the students that have actually gone back to school, and schools continue to meet the needs of both teachers and students in making education possible. and much success with that in the last couple of weeks prior to the Christmas vacations. The USM, to update on that situation, as mentioned in the last press release from the ministry, we had submitted a proposal to the USM to the tune of initial injection of 230,000 Antillean guilders. Their request had been for an injection of 3 times 250. Upon perusal of their request or the budget, 2 parts of the budget line were already included in their regular subsidy, and so that's why we are looking at 230,000. 3 injections. They will continue, and they have continued to receive their subsidy monthly of 63,750 guilders. They had indicated that their board would meet on Sunday, which they did, and that we would receive the feedback on Monday, which we received yesterday in writing. The department is processing this information. Of course, in a MOU situation, both parties have to agree to the agreements as well as the conditions, and as such, we requested a meeting with the university today, which they were not able to do, and they suggested tomorrow. However, we are in Parliament all day tomorrow, so we are still trying to ascertain if today is still possible at some point for us to sit together, the Department of Education with the board of the USM, to hash out the differences within the MOU that no immediate agreement had been reached on. What has been agreed upon, though, is that they would receive the 3 times 320,000 guilders, and that we would process and work on that's at least the basic things we see are in agreement. Their request for the increase in structural subsidy, which then should kick in once these 3 installments. So only these 3 months will be then there to be able to process that. And so making sure and tying down those action points and timelines within the MOU is very, very important. What I would like to reassure the students and staff at USM is that government remains committed to keeping the USM as our only line of higher education at that level here on St. Martin, especially for students who, for one reason or the other, are unable to leave the country, especially for older students who are going back to school, who are working, have their grown children or their small ones, and are sacrificing to be able to do so. This remains key for us here at Government of St. Martin. However, to understand that we thought it was a seriously urgent issue last week. However, the university took the time until Sunday to do this, and to be able to finalize the advice for the exact approval by COM, while COM provisionally agrees with what I have presented, they have to be able to agree on a document which is approved by both parties. And as such, we need the legal affairs as well as we've also received legal affairs advice yesterday. And so we're burning the midnight oil as government to try and get everything incorporated that is necessary legally to be able to hold the USM Foundation accountable for the funds which it had received.
People all across St. Martin are switching to a more rewarding experience. The WIP MasterCard Fun Miles credit card, better known as My Card. Earn 1 fun mile for every $2 spent, even abroad and online. This will quickly get you a ton of fun miles to redeem for travel, shopping, food, fuel, and much more. But there's more to my card. Worldwide acceptance, an EMV chip for extra security, and 250 free fun miles with first use. Switch to my card today at WIB.
Fun miles, from within your reach.
Hey guys, did you know that now with Telcel, if you accumulate $25 or more within one calendar month, you get 15 more?
15 more?
Yes, 15 more. However you want.
So I can top up $3 now, $10 next week, and so on until I reach or pass $25?
That's right. Get 15 more.
Wow! I feel like a 15 again.
Yeah. Right. Accumulate $25 or more within one calendar month and get 15 more. Telcel, when you want more.
It's been said that behind every door, possibility awaits. How much possibility depends on which door you open first. Every day, we help our customers discover the possibilities in their lives. It all starts with a conversation. Scotiabank. Discover what's possible.
And when considering this idea for a coming together, a getting together to have that discussion, it even crossed my mind to have the candidate ministers somehow in that discussion as well, so that you could have had a sort of a seamless transition, at least where these items are concerned. Of course, that is not possible. You can't call in officially to Parliament the ministers that will be taken over, but it definitely has to be, they have to pay attention to these matters, and the information has to be shared as much as possible. So no, we don't have an exact date for that yet, Alita, and I really hope that in that context too, we can see some movement during the course of next week, but that could be wishful thinking, but I hope so. You know, Parliament's financial situation is actually part of government's financial situation. I don't have, but I can definitely have that looked at in terms of Parliament's budget and where we are right now with expenditures of Parliament. You would recall that at the beginning of 2017, the government of St. Martin made a considerable cut to Parliament's budget. And before Irma, the intention was, and government had admitted, that they would have to add to Parliament's budget, to add to the budget that they had cut. But what the situation would be and now that we have had Irma and government income has been so drastically reduced, that would be another discussion. You know, there are, and I always appreciate when this question is asked, because to me, some persons too easily or accept too easily that Parliament is the legislator without taking into account that without a willing and collaborating government, Parliament cannot pass any laws. So the most effective way of getting laws passed is having an understanding between government and Parliament as to what needs to happen. I believe, again, given all that we have seen, that the matter of electoral reform is something that we should address as soon as possible. But this statement has been made over and over in the past by different governments, by different politicians, but still that is something that there should be an understanding about, that we would get some type of electoral reform. So if you look, I'm going to give you an example, the matter of the timeshare ordinance. You know, that matter has been passed unanimously in Parliament months ago. However, unless the government or the minister in question affixes his or her signature to that law, it will not be a law. And as far as I have understood, because every month the minister was being asked, what about signing this law? And as far as I know, and this was information up to maybe last week or the week before, the law was not signed off. So while the Parliament passed that law, we don't have a law on timeshare yet. So that collaboration, for the Parliament to be effective, effective, we need government to cooperate. Even in passing laws for the parliament to be effective, you need government to cooperate. Next week again, hopefully, we will continue the discussion on the law of administrative enforcement. We will continue the law on the changes to the civil code that regulates the matter of the labor contracts. You know, but these things take so long before you really get at the end of the law process, the legislative process.